Hello YouTube, and welcome to the final crafting lesson for this season of Path of Exile 2, focusing on one of the most requested items, a monstrous endgame +2 projectile skills, crit, Quiver. This Quiver has so many different ways to craft it, but this is the way that I like the most, and I find this to be the cheapest and safest way to guarantee a massive profit, or bare minimum, a couple of divines worth of profit, even if you get unlucky. And don't worry, it's not going to break your bank, it's super easy to do, it's just a 10 to 20 divine craft, and in this video, I only spent 15 to 20 divs, and I didn't even get obscenely lucky. There's no complicated steps at all, very straightforward omens, straightforward currencies, and straightforward ways to prepare your base in order to get yourself the god tier endgame quivers without needing to overpay on trade. Please remember though, the cost of this craft and its profitability is based on the time of recording and uploading this. It can always change with how volatile Path of Exile 2's economy is, so please check the prices of things before you engage in the craft. And as always, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. I have answered and will answer every single comment. Sometimes YouTube Studio does not show me every single new comment, so I apologize if I've ever missed any of them. If I've missed your comment on a previous video, please comment it again on the latest video, and I always make sure to manually check the latest uploads just in case there are some comments that are hidden away. With all that being said, I hope you enjoy the video. If you're not subscribed, please do so. If you like the video, give it a like. If you dislike the video, give it a dislike. But that is enough yapping. Let's get crafting one final time. Before we begin, I just want to mention that with this video, I would have now officially taught you guys how to work on every single different gear slot in the game. It's been very fun making these crafting lessons and interacting with all of you in the comments and the Discord. Seeing all the cool stuff you've made and how much profit it's gotten you has been a blast. Now, this isn't a full goodbye though, just a temporary one, and I will be back on PoE2 in the next season. I'll talk about this more in the end of this video, but I just wanted to express a heartfelt thank you for all the kind words and support that so many of you have shown in this last month. It's truly been amazing, and I hope that I can keep it up for as long as possible, because you guys are amazing, so thank you. And now, let's begin with the final craft. To start, I'm going to be grabbing only 40 divines from my stash. Now don't be scared, I'm not going to be using all these 40 divs. I'm grabbing extra for a reason, and you will see that reason in a moment. But just know, the entire craft is not going to take 40 divs. I'm grabbing this currency, and I've removed all of the other relevant currencies and omens. So as you can see, the exact cost of the entire craft in the end. So that being done, now let's begin with the first step. To start, I'm going to be breaking 3 of my divines into exalts so that I can buy all of the smaller omens and items that I need in order to start the craft. This is pretty high gold cost, but it is what it is. Moving all the exalts into my stash, and now I can move on to buying the bases with these 3,600 exalts, and I still have 37 divines remaining for the other steps. So there's 2 different kinds of bases that you will be needing for this craft. The first one will be a +2 to level of all projectile skills on a item level 75 plus of Visceral Quiver. Make sure it's not fractured, not corrupted, and not sanctified. This will cost around 200x at the time of recording. So get a bunch of these bases, and the other base will be a Tier 1 lightning damage to attacks base, also item level 75 plus, also not fractured, not corrupted, not sanctified. This will cost around 100x or a tiny bit more. Get a bunch of these bases as well, because we will be recombinating this base with this base. Now this one is super cheap, so I'm just going to snipe this while I can, but otherwise this will cost around 100x for each. So I'm going to get a bunch of these bases, and then I'll be back when I'm done. Okay, I got my final base. So I have 10 flat lightning damage quivers, and I have 10 +2 level of all projectile skill quivers. So the lightning ones, I got all of them for roughly 160 exalts on average. There was a guy that had a bunch of these magic quivers for sale for 160x, so I bought most of them from one person. This made things faster. And then the +2 Proj cost me anywhere between 200 to 300x to buy all of these. So in the end, I spent the entirety of the 3 divines that I broke into exalts buying those bases. So now I'm going to break one more exalt very quickly for the remainder of the things that I need to get. So quickly dump these exalts into my stash. And now comes the recombinating part. So really quickly, since we have 10 bases, we will need 10 omens of recombination. This will also cost like 500x. It's okay. And then we will need some circle artifacts, broken circle artifacts. Let's say, I think around 300 of these would be normal, which is 60x. Might need more, but I think this much should be enough. You don't need these in your inventory, you can just dump them into your stash and then they'll be used up anyway, the same way it works with currencies. So, since I can only do a certain number of these quivers at once, I'm gonna take 3 lightning damage ones and 3 prod skills, and then we're gonna move over to the Recombinator. So, oh, don't look at that. Just noticed one of the bases I bought has Desecrated +2 level of all Proj. That is not what I wanted, so this is basically dead. But TLDR for the recombination using actual non-Desecrated +2 level of Proj, it works in a way that it allows you to select one mod on one item and another mod on another item, and then it shows you a chance of success of smashing these two mods together on a third base which has both of these modifiers on it. Now that third base can either be this one or it can be this one. In this case, since we both have identical bases, we don't really care about which base it selects, but if you want to know how it selects a base, it chooses the modifier that has a higher modifier level and is weighted to select that one instead of the other one. So in this case, Prod Skills +2 requires the item level 41 base. You can't see that here, you see that on the database site and I'll show that afterwards. And lightning damage is a item level 75 base. That is why we wanted item level 75 plus quivers. So this is more likely to select this base instead of this one. Very important, another thing, is the chance of success here is only 8.72%. And you might ask, well, you spent like almost 200 eggs on this base, almost 300 eggs on this base. This is a 500 eggs smash here. This is almost like half a div. So is this worth it? And yes, it is. So even with 8.72% chance, you still have no other way to get this part done in a cheaper way than this. So this is the only way to do it. So you will be using Omen of Recombinations to make the recombination lucky. Lucky basically makes the recombination roll twice. So if it rolls once and it misses this 8.72%, it will roll again to try to hit it again. If you want to know the rough math on that, it is 8.72% base chance. So take half of that base chance and add it back into this. So half of 8.72 is 4.3-ish. So 8.72 plus 4.3 is around 13%, which is okay. That makes it so you have a 1 in 9-ish chance to get one of these quivers done. Now obviously if you're luckier, you might get more of them. If you're unlucky, you might hit less of them, but that's okay. Now I'm going to speed up this part, so you don't have to just watch me recombinating all of these bases. I'm not going to skip this part either, that you can see the process of these bases being recombinated and some of them failing. Maybe only one succeeds, maybe none of them succeed. Let's see. So you click Recombine, and you can skip this animation by just closing the interface and going into it again. So that one failed, as expected. This was a dead base with Desecrated level 2 Proj. We're not going to use that. And then you just keep on going with this. Make sure you have your Omen of Recombination on. Let's see this entire animation play out. There we go, that's one. That's honestly pretty lucky to get the second one. And now I'm gonna do the same for all the rest of the bases that I bought. So enjoy the sped up recom session. Okay, so as you saw, I didn't hit a single other base. I got one base prepped here, and this is extra now because I don't have a non-desecrated +2 Proj. But okay, one base in 9 attempts, that is literally exactly average, as expected, so that's okay. Now, we will move on to the next step. So the next step involves a little bit of RNG, and if you miss on this step, it's going to be okay, it's just not going to be as okay as you would want it to be. So, first things first, you're going to need a prefix necromancy omen of sinister necromancy, for 35 results. You will need a preserved jawbone. You will need 2 perfect exalts, slightly overpaying here, but that's okay. And then you will need 1 fracturing orb. Break 1 more divine into exalts because you can never have enough exalts for all of this. Then 2 omen of homogenizing exaltations, and then 2 omen of dextral exaltations. Small disclaimer, by the way, I know I spend a lot of gold sometimes trying to convert all of these currencies. That's because I'm buying in exalted orbs so that I can actually buy singular versions of those currencies, but you can very easily just buy them with divines instead, and then you will save a bunch of gold trying to convert your divines to exalts first. But just to make calculations more specific for specific crafts, that is why I break things into exalts first. If I don't do that, I would end up having like a lot of extra stuff for future crafts or stuff that I can sell like I do over here. But in this case right now, I only buy just enough for the craft. That is why I have to use exalted orbs for it. So we bought a bunch of different things here. Why did we buy all of this? Well, on this base, you want to fracture either the lightning damage to attacks, which is the best fracture, that is the main one, or you want to fracture +2 level of all projectile skills. One of those modifiers. A fracturing orb needs 4 modifiers to be on a base before it can be fractured. So, the first of those modifiers will be a prefix bone, and I'll explain why it has to be a prefix later on, but for now it just has to be a prefix bone, cheap bone, boom. And then the other modifier will be a homogenizing suffix perfect exalt. Now, why are we doing this? This is because we just spent around 3 divines trying to get this one base to this point. So even if you miss the lightning damage to attacks and you miss the +2 level of all proj, and you end up fracturing the modifier that this exalted orb is going to land, you can still finish the quiver. It just won't finish as pristine as possible, and I will leave a note in the pinned comment about what you have to do if you miss your 2 main fractures. So don't worry, it's not going to be a brick, it's just going to be less good in the end. So, homogenizing exalt, suffix exalt, and a perfect exalted orb. I'm gonna uncheck these and let's quickly see what exactly this is supposed to hit. So if you see here, the mods on the item currently are lightning damage to attacks, that's damage, elemental, lightning, and attack. Damage, attack, elemental, lightning, so these modifiers. And then we have +2 proj. +2 proj has no tag, so that is irrelevant. So when we homogenize the suffix, we have a 40% chance to hit attack speed with a perfect exalt. And we have 30% chances for the 2 crit damage mods. So the best case scenario over here would be to hit both of the crit damage and crit chance for attacks. With a perfect exalt, you are guaranteed to get either tier 2 or tier 1 of those, and these are worth way more than attack speed. Even though you get guaranteed tier 1 attack speed, with a perfect exalt, attack speed is just not as desirable on quivers as crit chance and crit damage. So that is what we're going to hit with our homogenizing exalt. So back in here, omen of homogenizing exaltation, omen of dextral exaltation, and a perfect exalt on the suffix. And hopefully this gives me, right now, crit chance or crit damage. Boom. It's attack speed, that's okay, it's fine. It is expected, you're not expected to hit crit, but it is just way better to hit crit, and you'll see the prices in the end of how much better it is to hit crit, but attack speed is okay too. So now comes the scary part. Now you want to fracture this base and ideally hit lightning damage attacks or prod skills, not attack speed. So fingers crossed, let's see which one I hit. Lightning damage is the best one, please. Boom. +2 Proj. Okay, I didn't hit the attack speed. That's good enough. This is a 2 out of 3 chance to get the right mod and a 1 out of 3 chance to miss and then be sad. So at this point now, there are a few different things to consider. Also, I will add another additional note in the pinned comment about what to do if you fracture your lightning damage to attacks, because if you fracture that, you can make a very good quiver for way cheaper. Okay? So that is like the ideal fracture. So I'll mention that note in the pinned comment as well if that happens to you on your quiver. But since that did not happen to me on mine, I will continue on with the +2 level wall Proj skills fracture. So with this Proj skills fracture, you can actually get one more chance to fix the attack speed and try to get crit chance and crit damage instead. So you will buy a Omen of Dextral Crystallization for 100x and an Essence of Hysteria for 400x. So the Omen of Dextral Crystallization combined with the Essence of Hysteria will remove the attack speed from that suffix and guaranteed slam increased damage with bow skills on the prefix. This will finish your prefixes and give you another chance to get crit chance and crit damage on your suffix. Boom. There we go. Prefixes are now nice and clean, and now we can finish those suffixes. So in order to finish the suffixes, you need an Omen of Greater Exaltation. And now you just want to select your Omen of Homogenizing Exaltation, Omen of Dextral Exaltation, Omen of Greater Exaltation to slam 2 Perfect Exalted mods, and your Perfect Exalted Orb, and fingers crossed that you get crit chance and crit damage. Boom. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? Would you look at that? Max rolled too? I mean, okay, I gotta say the line. That's not supposed to happen. Okay? You will see the prices at the end and you will realize that getting double for crit damage and crit chance is super nice and it's worth like twice or even 3 times as much as attack speed and crit. So this is super lucky. But even if you don't get this, it is still okay. You don't lose anything. You just gain more if you hit this. But now that we are done with that, we can get to that final desecration. So, about this desecration. So we want to hit prod speed on the unveil. Now we cannot get tier 1 because we don't have item level 82 bases. Those are extra expensive and just extra costly. And the only thing you get from them is tier 1 prod speed, so just ignore those. So we want ideally tier 2. Even tier 3 is okay, but ideally the best one is tier 2. But obviously there's no real way to guarantee or not guarantee this. I would not recommend using an Ancient Jawbone on this step. Ancient Jawbones are like over 5 divines currently, and they're just not worth it in my opinion, because all of these modifiers have a 3% chance to hit, roughly based on no existing mods on the item. So because we already have lightning damage to attacks and damage with bow skills, if you remove these 2 mods from the roll equation, this is 9%, this is 11%, that's 20% additional being added into these, so it has a very decent chance of rolling by default. So it is up to you. If you want to use an Ancient Jawbone, go ahead and use an Ancient Jawbone. If you want to use a normal one, go ahead and use a normal one. A normal would just severely save your costs, but that's okay. I've used a preserved one already, so now all I need to do is get myself a reroll Omen for 100x, or 90x, I guess, and now I'll go over to the Well of Souls to unveil this. Another small note about using an Ancient Jawbone versus a normal one. With an Ancient Jawbone, if you miss, and you have to Omen of Light and do it again, that is 10 divines, because 5 divine for the Jawbone, 5 divines for the Omen of Light, and like 300x for the Annulment Orb, which is super expensive if you miss. But if you miss with a Preserved Jawbone, you just have to Omen of Light and annul it. It is going to be way cheaper, so that is what I would recommend. However, if you do want to use an Ancient Jawbone, if you want to get tier 2 prod speed only, then go for an Ancient Jawbone. But that being said, put your Quiver in, regardless of what bone you use. Make sure you activate your Omen of Abyssal Echoes and click Reveal. So that is where, if I had an Ancient Jawbone, that 10% prod speed could have been, I don't know, tier 3 or tier 2 prod speed. But since I do not have that, I'm going to reroll that. And now I did not hit it, which is perfectly fine, perfectly okay. That is normal. Not hitting it in the first unveil is to be expected. So we're just gonna grab whatever random modifier you want, toss it into the void. Now just to speed things up a little bit, I'm going to grab 5 divines from here, and I'm going to grab 300 exalts from here, so that I don't have to go and buy the Omen of Light and the Annul from Ange. I'm just gonna fish it out of my tab that I already have. So Omen of Light for 5 divines, thank you, me. And what else did I need? I needed 1 Orb of Annulment. Thank you, me again. There we go. So I just bought these from myself, basically. So Omen of Light, Orb of Annulment. We remove that tier 7 Fizz damage to attacks. Boom. And then I'm not going to go and buy another Preserved Jawbone because they're so cheap. It's 1 Exalt. Bite me. So I'm gonna slam that back on there. And now I'm going to buy an Omen of Abyssal Echoes from this Magical Wonder shop over here. And then there we go. No need to go back to Ange. So attempt number 2 to try to get prod speed, reveal. No prod speed on the first one. No prod speed on the second one. So what do you do in this scenario? This is an extremely unlucky scenario because prod speed is super easy to land on these unveils. So what do you do if you just don't hit them at all? Well, you can settle with other modifiers here as well. So here, this is tier 1 physical damage to attacks, which could be really good, right? So since I did not hit prod speed on the first unveil, and I did not hit prod speed on the second unveil, but I hit this modifier on the second unveil, this could make my Quiver worth it to sell right now, right? That is something very big to consider. So if you find yourself in this situation where you did not hit prod speed on either of your unveils, you can settle right here and stop. You can check the price of this Quiver and see, okay, should I sell this and make a new one? If you want prod speed on your Quiver, you could sell this in the way it is right now and then just go and buy a new one. Or if you're using this for yourself, you can just ditch the prod speed and keep this as it is. The only reason we're hunting for prod speed is because that sells for more, because Fubgoon has said that prod speed is the best modifier there. So all the Deadeye players are just searching for prod speed and paying massive amounts for their prod speed prefix. But that is not the only modifier that scale is built. Physical damage to attacks is also a very huge thing, especially tier 1. Even cold damage to attacks tier 1 is really good. I've sold a tier 1 cold damage with all of these modifiers already on it, and it sells perfectly fine. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to stop here, and we're going to quickly check the price of tier 1 fizz damage to attacks and see if it's worth it to sell like this. If it is not worth it at all, for whatever reason, then you would need to Omen of Light this again and go again. Okay, that is me just adding some information on what you need to do if you get unlucky on this part, because this is the main RNG screwy shafty part. So a quick recap, I set aside 40 divines for this craft, and I spent 15 divines at this step, and that is including a Omen of Light. So 15 divines for this Quiver right here. Let's see if it's going to be worth more than this. Alright, so there we go. This is a Quiver with tier 4 physical damage to attacks and tier 1 lightning damage unveiled, and it's 35 divines. This is 45 divines. this is 50 divines. And all of these don't even have tier 1 fizz. If I set this to tier 1 fizz, it gets insane, right? These are actually worth quite a bit. I don't think it's going to sell for this much because it's just dumb thinking about that, because this is way overpriced, this is also way overpriced, this is also way overpriced, because these are all listed like 2 days ago, a day ago. So these will not sell in their current state, but you can still expect this to be Mirror of Calandra. Is this guy drunk? Anyway, you can still expect these to be somewhere around 30 divines selling price, maybe even 35 divines. This one might sell. If this guy had tier 1 fizz, this could have sold. However, this does have crit chance and crit damage. Okay, so if I was to change that and I change it into this search instead, now this will show me bases that have 2 of these 3 modifiers, so attack speed and one of these 2. Let's see those. So now it jumps down to 19 divines, right, with attack speed and crit damage, or attack speed and crit chance will also be somewhere in here, mixed up somewhere. But you can see that it's still worth way more than how much I spent currently to make it. And again, this is like tier 4 fizz. If I set that to tier 1, then the price jumps up again. But again, I don't think these will sell at this price. This one might with tier 1 fizz, but who knows. To summarize, this is a completely worth it spot to stop on, sell, and then make a new quiver, and then just go again. Okay, if you're trying to do this for profit, there you go, you already made profit. However, if you did not hit fizz damage to attacks, but you hit what you were trying to hit, which was prod speed, tier 2 prod speed, so like 36 prod speed, just hitting the prod speed without double crit mods is 35 divines. Now again, these quivers are not selling because people don't really want to buy the attack speed ones. Okay, people on this high end at this point in the league, they don't really want to buy attack speed ones at this price. Okay, they usually buy them for around 25 to 20 divines. They don't buy them at 35 divines. These are overpriced. However, if you don't hit attack speed, if you do hit double crit, then the price jumps up quite substantially. So the main thing to see here is that the market for quivers is very oversaturated. You can see this quiver with +2 prods, tier 1 lightning, damage with bow skills, crit, and prod speed. There's 147 of these quivers currently on market. Now, that is because Deadeye builds are so insanely common, and the most important thing for a Deadeye build are not the rings, it's not the gloves, it's not the boots, it's the bow and the quiver. Now the bow is way too difficult to craft, and only really psychopathic people try to craft that, but the quiver has many different methods to craft. Like, there's this method that I'm showing you right here, which personally I think is the best one. It is the least painful one. But there are many other methods as well to get to a similar point in the end. That is why there's so many of these quivers. However, main point here being that if you want to use a quiver like this for yourself, instead of paying them for their quivers, you can just make your own for like 15 div to potentially reach this point. You will save 50 divines on this, or if you don't hit prod speed, or if you don't hit double crit, you will still be saving like 30 divines, 20 divines. See, right here. If you have attack speed and prod speed, you save 20 divines. If you don't have prod speed, if you have something else, like if you have cold damage to attacks even with that, you're completely fine. Because look, 21 divines, you can break even if you have cold damage. And I can prove this, because look. I did the same thing. I got a quiver. I didn't hit crit damage and crit chance. I hit crit damage with attack speed. And I unveiled cold damage. And I sold it for 20 divines. So, profit either way. 19 divines, made it for 15, easy profit. It's not a massive amount of profit, but it is still super easy profit. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys learned a thing or two or had fun watching it. And I hope you guys had a blast with all of the crafting lessons that I've posted in this season. It has been so amazing. So I do have to again inform that this is the final crafting lesson for the season. With Path of Exile of 1's new season coming out, I will obviously be focusing on that as well, since I love playing both games. I don't just play one, I do play both. So, if you are someone that plays Path of Exile 1, well, great, you will be seeing more of me, but if you're someone who plays only Path of Exile 2, well, you will have to say goodbye to me for a little bit and goodbye to your free crafting lessons. However, this is not the end of Path of Exile 2 content. I'll still be making 3 more videos on this game, showcasing the main ways on how you can craft anything in the game. The entire thought process that goes into any craft that all crafters use on the high end. So that is mirror tier crafting, that is normal crafting, that is high tier crafting, any crafting. You will learn how to do it yourself. So you won't need me, hopefully. But if you do need me, you can feel free to ask me any questions in my Discord. If you get stuck anywhere, you can comment on any of my videos and I'll answer all your questions. But one final note about the Quiver, again, should you try crafting this Quiver for yourself? Absolutely. There is no reason not to. It is just so much profit, so easily. If you get lucky on the crit damage and crit chance plus the prot speed, and if you do not get lucky, even if you get the bare minimum luck of crit damage and attack speed, and you don't unveil prot speed, but hopefully in 4 total unveils, which is 2 unveils with 2 rerolls, you will hit at least one tier 2 or tier 1 desirable mod. Desirable mods being fizz damage, cola damage, prot speed, one of those. So hopefully that happens. If it does, great. If it doesn't, you will have to use 1 more Omen of Light, which is going to be unfortunate, but I hope that doesn't happen to you. But with all that being said, that's going to be all from me. Thank you all for all the support in the crafting lessons. Now, I will see you all in the next few videos. Bye-bye. And a huge shout out to all of my patrons: Marcus, Axel Jacobs, Bridgeburner, Sebi2k, Creative Extent, Darkar, and Looter is real. All of you guys showing up, showing your support. It has been amazing. And don't worry, Mr. Anonymous guy, thank you too. I haven't forgotten, even though your name isn't anywhere. I appreciate you too. So thank you. Okay, I need this for the thumbnail. I removed the frizz damage. Give me prot speed. There we go.